fresh food. Your health and your family's health matters to us. Come eat healthy at Barbaritos, 23rd Street in the Stanford Station Shopping Center near Academy Sports. Barbaritos, food, community, people.
Ben and Deb Collins, owners of Bay Guns and Gear, have been in business since 2010, offering new firearms and accessories with a huge selection available for your hunting needs and personal defense. Turn to Bay Guns and Gear. They have the weapon for you. Discount pricing. And if you can't find what you're looking for, they'll special order it for you. Bay Guns and Gear, across from Grease Pro at 3115 Highway 77. Visit their website, baygunsandgear.com.
What's that grin about?
I just took a load off my staff by hiring Fresh Start Cleaning Services.
How'd you manage that?
Fresh Start Cleaning Services allows our team to leave at the end of their shift and not have to stay and clean after a double. They're happy, and you should see the difference having a professional cleaner makes. Plus, now I know exactly how much the cleaning cost will be for the year.
Wow, that would make anyone smile.
You can call Fresh Start Cleaning Services at 850-771-6057.
Hey, is that a faucet running?
Nope, that's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest.
It is?
Yeah, forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink. The water comes straight from the forest to us. In fact...
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
How do trees clean the air?
They soak up the dirty air on their leaves, branches, and trunks, which means clean air for us.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yep, but the forest does more than give us clean air and water. It gives us shade for hot days, birds to listen to, and trees to climb.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know how cool the forest could be. Hey, let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You're home to the NFL. WGSX Lynn Haven. WVLQ Port St. Joe. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Are you ready? Okay, let's begin.
Drip. The Afternoon Underdog Drip. Live and local. Inside the Talkhouse.
Unleash the Dragon.
On the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
What's going on, Northwest Florida? You are now riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes along with AG. That is Adam Goff on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. A little spicy out there, though.
It's a little bit hot, but I'm just enjoying this view right here because do you remember Monsters, Inc., where they had the monster in the back doing the filing cabinets?
Yeah.
And all the arms were going everywhere and stuffing stuff away? That's what I'm seeing right now is I've got Dave watching phones in this monitor and this other monitor here, and he's got the board in front, and he's looking at the microphone, and it's too funny.
Yeah, no, so what happened there was I'm over here trying to reach, and I'm like, if I go to turn this on, then I'm going to be so far off mic that they're barely going to be able to hear me. So let me just drag that thing a little bit closer. But no, you guys can give us a text or call throughout the afternoon today at 850-215-6290. You can follow along with us on Facebook and YouTube, all at ESPN Northwest Florida. And you can go download the app and take us with you where you go. And if you're a fan of Mosley football, if you've got a youngin' playing over there, it'd be a great idea to go grab that because tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, coverage starts for Mosley versus Rutherford. First game to kick off the 2023 season right here in Bay County. Can't wait for it.
And where can we hear that?
Right here, ESPN Northwest Florida.
That's right. That's how we do things here.
Yes, sir. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait for the game. We're actually going to be doing the show there. Me and Kyle will from 4 to 6, and then we'll get a little hour off there real quick, go run down to the field, talk to some of the players, the coaches and whatnot, and then get back in the booth and call the game. I'm really excited for it, man. I'm the kids definitely. And Coach Whitten definitely have bigger butterflies, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't have a little butterflies in the stomach getting ready for tomorrow evening.
Oh, I bet, because, I mean, this is also one of those situations where you're not in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many different variables, things can go wrong, and hopefully they don't. Hopefully everything goes as smooth as silk. But, I mean, it's first game of the year, and, you've got how many games under your belt? 9?
10, I would imagine.
10, yeah. So it's so it's we're definitely gonna be listening, definitely gonna be tuning in, and I know you say an hour off in between, but I know you're not going to be off.
Oh, it's not going to be off.
Off air, maybe.
Off air.
Right.
Well, and that's one of the things, because we had talked about, going from 4 to 6 and then picking. Normally we do a pregame of 30 or 15 minutes. And to start the season out, I think 30 minutes is a perfect amount of time. But I was like, that is almost 7 hours. Well, let's see. A football game runs for about 2.5 hours, let's say. So 2.5 hours, then that's 5 hours of David Hayes. Plus, you got to hear me sometimes on the inside drive. Like, that's too much for the listeners. So we compromised, and we'll just be starting at kickoff tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be a great time, and still have a couple of areas of sponsorship available too.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have the second and the fourth quarter and some in-game updates. I'll just give myself no, go to Facebook. I don't know why. I'm just not comfortable giving my Facebook
or
my
call us
number.
here. Right.
Yeah, or you can give me a call right now, 850-215-6290. And we will walk you through all of that. But great stuff. Can't wait for it. On the Precipice, Bay and Arnold's going to be there Friday night at Tommy Oliver. A lot of in-county games to kick the season off. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to talk more about high school football later on when we get Coach Andy Siegel on the line with us.
That dude is a treasure trove of information.
Dude, and
at
fun
all
as
levels
all get
of
out.
Football, right?
Right, exactly. It doesn't matter. You can go USFL, XFL. He probably knows more about that than most. And then you go Canadian Football League, National Football League, college football, high school football. Doesn't matter what class. The man knows it all, and he brings it with class. Let's see. Tyler Bishop yesterday. I'm just going to throw you off on a tangent here. Yesterday, Tyler Bishop and myself did the ACC predictions, and we had Louisville. I had him at 7-5. Tyler had him at 6-6. And I was wondering if you meet that with any fight back, if there's any arguments.
Again, I mean, all this is going to hinge on Plumber, the QB that they brought in from Cal, right? I mean, if Braum is this supposed quarterback whisperer like he's been advertised, with the running game that Louisville already had, and the growing defense and the additions that they did make on the defensive side, I mean, Louisville's not playing Clemson or Florida State this season. They were, when the ACC split, or didn't split, they joined basically and got rid of divisions, and at least in college football, it changed some things, right? I mean, you can't play everybody every year. In Louisville, for whatever reason, Jeff Brom's probably going, yippee, right? We don't have to play Clemson, nor do we have to play Florida State. There's 2 games on there aside from the Kentucky game, which is a rivalry game, right? I mean, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum with regards to Alabama-Auburn. I don't care what their records are. I don't care how they've been performing. There's something about that game that brings out either the best of one team versus the worst of another. And it can go either way. I mean, we've seen it. But I don't count that game as a 50-50 game in Louisville's schedule. But I count the Notre Dame coming to Louisville as a 50-50 game, because we don't know what Freeman's second year is going to look like with Notre Dame. He lost his offensive coordinator too.
The Tide, which, right? I mean, when Notre Dame fans are happy about a coordinator leaving, I don't know if that's great. But also, I don't think Nick Saban would make that hire if he didn't feel like it was good for
100%. Right. And again, what's Notre Dame fans left to say other than be just distraught or heartbroken? Well, you didn't like him anyway.
Right.
You went to Alabama, dude. It's not like he went, to a lateral job or even a job beneath. Like, he didn't go to SMU and be an offensive coordinator. No offense to SMU fans out there, but just throwing out a dart
just
at the dartboard.
Right.
But, that's a 50-50 game to me. I mean, Louisville played them close a few years ago. Granted, different coaches, different regimes, different player personnel. Louisville won at Notre Dame, I think 2 years prior to that. So that's a 50-50 game to me, with Louisville coming in, or with Notre Dame coming into Louisville, and then at NC State. And the only reason I think at NC State is because They usually play tough at home, no matter who their opponent is. I mean, we've seen really good Clemson teams go in there and struggle mightily. But they lost their quarterback, who is now at Kentucky. So that's going to be, to me, that's where that season hinges, because I feel like they're capable based on paper alone, because that's all we have, is 9-win season is a really, really good season, and they have a really good shot, I think, at a 10-win season. Now, if they get 9 wins, I'm as happy as can be. I'm sure Jeff Brom is probably as happy as can be. 10 wins, that's glorious. You go 11 wins or 10 wins or more, it's awesome. It's amazing. I mean, what does that do for recruiting and everything else? So I think 6 and 7 is a little low. I understand it based on performance from last year, but Scott Satterfield is gone, thankfully. He's in Cincinnati.
Right, Big 12 and it up.
Appreciate you, Bearcats. But, he's gone. His coaches are gone, and the quarterback has been changed. I mean, there's a few leftovers, but I think the leftovers were ones that we could really, really, utilize in a more efficient way under Jeff Brom.
Is there anyone else that you could envision winning the ACC outside of FSU or Clemson? Like, do you think that Louisville has not a fighter's chance, but a legitimate chance here in year one?
I mean, there's dark horses out there.
Right.
I mean,
let's go through some of the conferences and go through some of the dark horses, though, because that's something that we haven't done yet to this point, and we're getting awfully close.
Yeah.
So let's go. Let's stick here with the ACC, though, and give me some of your dark horses. I'll start with one, and they had a great year last year, 9-3. Will they be able to build upon that? I had their record coming in at 6-6, and again, we have no idea about the injuries that are going to happen, how they match up with certain teams. We really have no idea. But could Duke be a dark horse? They start the year out with Clemson. Could they be a dark horse to win the ACC? I'm going to say yes. For me, it's FSU or Clemson's. But if there is a dark horse, I'm going to throw Duke and North Carolina into that conversation.
For me, as far as a dark horse goes in the ACC, and I don't mind that pick. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if Duke could, maybe get over that hump. But for me, Virginia Tech. I mean, Virginia Tech has all the makings. They've got the tradition. They've got the history. They're starting to build some things up there. We've seen flashes of it the last couple of years. Virginia Tech, I think, is probably the dark horse. If I don't go homer here and go Louisville,
you can go homer if you want.
Well, I mean, Louisville is a dark horse because we're in the dark with what Brom is going to do at that program. I mean, we've seen the recruiting that he's done. I mean, it's top 25 class this year, one of the highest classes they've ever had. He brings in Plummer from California. Jawar Jordan, the running back, who's on some college, top running back finalist list right now. So they've got talent. They've got talent all over the field. It's just whether or not, he can put that all together in year one. So that's the mystery. But so I don't want to go Louisville just for the sake of being a homer, but I think Virginia Tech would be my dark horse.
Let's go over to the Pac-12. Out of the out of the teams that'll be with the Pac-12 in 2024, who has the best shot to win it this year? I think there's only one correct answer, and I'm really being facetious more than anything.
I mean, they're not a dark horse, but I mean, are you asking for dark horse or who else is going to win it?
No. Dark horse of the teams. Well, you could your favorite of the 4 teams that'll be in the Pac-12 next year, 2024.
USC.
Well, but they're not going to be in the Pac-12 next year, though. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, next year?
Yeah. So Oregon State, Stanford, Cal. I'm going with Oregon State. I think that's the only viable option.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the Pac-4.
Yeah, the Pac-4.
Okay, right. I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you now. Yeah, Pac-4. Probably Oregon State, just because they always seem to hang around, but they just never get over that hump.
Wait, so you're saying USC is a dark horse to win?
No. I thought you were asking who was going to win. That's why I was confused whether you're asking me a dark horse or who's going to win it. And I'm like, well, I think USC is going to hands down win it.
No, I was just trying to be funny with the guy scoring it. It missed. So I did not sink your battleship there. So your favorite's USC. Mine is, I'm going to say Oregon's going to be my favorite to win. Bo Nix, Dan Lanning having a defensive mind. The offense seemed pretty solid last year. And then my darker horse would be Washington. I think USC, Oregon, and Washington all have the chance to go 11-1. And then all 3 of those teams, right? 3 teams at 11-1 in the Pac-12 And this is obviously just crazy predictions, but 3 teams at 11-1, and then you're off to the Big Ten next year.
What's Utah's schedule look like?
Utah's schedule, I mean, they got
Florida opening up, right?
They got Florida opening up. They're going to have USC, Oregon, and Washington.
Utah looked good against USC last year. So,
twice.
Twice. So, I mean, if you're going to go dark horse from the entire conference, Utah for me.
Utah?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little bit more. I think that you can throw USC and Oregon's more in favorites, even though I went with Oregon, and I'll back off of that, and I'll go with Oregon State as my through and through dark horse.
Okay.
I don't believe in DJU, though. That's my issue. I really don't. We saw him at Clemson. He got 2 opportunities there and flubbed out. You know what I mean?
Well, but the thing about DJU is, like, if you can't win with that defense and the weapons that he had around him, then you're the problem.
Right.
So going to Oregon State is going to be
the same thing.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm.
Right.
That's
it's just going to be worse around him. So I don't see it being like Bo Nix leaving Auburn and going to Oregon. Now, granted, he had his Bo Nix moments last year.
Yeah.
And we all, came down on him for it, but he showed flashes of brilliance, and he showed that elevation from his freshman year.
Progression in the sense of consistency.
100%. And not folding in the big moment.
Right.
I mean, he had some really, really big moments there last year. So I do like Oregon with Dan Lanning and the Bo Nix combo, but at the same time,
are they necessarily a dark horse, though?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I like you talking about them. You talk about them as your favorite, so I like them as your favorite. I just think USC is just going to be too tough, man. You got returning Heisman. I mean, what they're building out there, if they can just hold their opponent, I think, to 28 points, they got a chance to win every game.
What's the question mark, though? What's the
USC?
Yeah, for USC. Doesn't it have to be defense?
It is 100%.
Does Brennan Rice step up and fill the shoes of Jordan Addison? Which, I mean, could you imagine if Jerry Rice's son has a big year? I mean, you already got the whole world's talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. But if you're going to have a game where USC plays Colorado, and you could have Shiloh Sanders possibly covering Brennan Rice, which would be a little Deion Sanders, Jerry Rice rendition, if you will.
We're old,
but for me, it's right. But for me, it is the defense of USC that is going to be the X factor. Like, they have to perform in order for USC to make noise
100%.
Outside of the Pac-12.
And that's what I said. Like, if the defense can just hold opponents to an average of 28 points a game, I think they win. And I don't mean just win a few games. Like, go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the goal, right? Is go to the playoffs. Obviously, win it, but you got to get there first. And if they're able to hold opponents to an average of 28 points in a season, per game in a season, I don't see
they're going to be scoring, right? Because they'll be scoring more.
Yeah, they're going to score more than 4 touchdowns a game.
Right. They'll be. I wouldn't be surprised to see their PPG end up around 38-41.
I would say it'd be around the ballpark of 40,
right?
100%.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Kyle Albritton said he's going with Washington. I like that pick as well. I would consider them more in the favorite. Yeah, it's Penix, and another year with him and DeBoer. So it's for me. I would have Washington in that tier of favorites and not in the dark horses, and definitely not in that you ain't got a shot here.
Well, and then that's where when I said Utah, like. I'm looking at USC, Oregon, Washington as that 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And then you got sneaky, sleepy little Utah out there just hanging out. And they do some big things every now and again, and then they stub their toe. Maybe this is that year that they don't stub their toe and they're able to progress. So we'll see.
Yeah, a lot of that is going to come down to Cam Rising and how healthy he is throughout the season as well. And there's uncertainty surrounding Cam Rising at this point, at least for week 1, though. And how do you think that's going to shake out? That Florida-Utah game, week 1, last year they played down in Florida. It was a great game, and this year is going to be in Salt Lake City.
I think Florida's fortunate that it's game 1 again this year.
Yeah.
I think if they go game 3, game 4, maybe that's a turning point in the Florida Gators season. Because
in a good way or bad way?
In a bad way. Because, Florida handled them last year, if I'm not mistaken, right? In the Swamp. I want to say they handled them fairly easily.
I thought it was a little bit closer of a game, and Florida kind of pulled away, but I'll pull that up.
Okay. But it was... If it's game 3, game 4, I feel like that puts Florida in some really, really shaky territory going into the SEC season.
Actually, it was Utah who had a lead going into the fourth quarter, and then Florida put up 15 points to end up winning 29-26. So it was a close game all the way around.
Okay.
But yeah, it was an Anthony Richardson rushing touchdown late, but I don't have the box score. I just have the final score.
Mm-hmm. But again, like, are they doing that in Utah, coming back from 13 points down? Probably not game one.
And obviously we talk about this a lot whenever we're talking Colorado or Utah or whatever, but that atmosphere.
How many wins Colorado
elevation? For me, see, I'm on the opposite side. A lot of people are like, they'll be lucky to win 4 or what. I'm thinking of 6-6, 7-5. And
that's lofty.
Right. No, it is. It is lofty, but it's kind of like the same way you're looking at Louisville, where I think there's some 50-50 games there, and I think the other thing that I'm doing is I don't have them making any major upsets, but I just think that a Deion Sanders coached team, so, and again, we can't really take what he did at Jackson State and watch it translate to this division necessarily, but I'm going to. And the way that they played ball, I think that in close games, I'll give Deion the edge. I know that it's his first year with this roster, but a lot of transfers and a lot of talent coming in, and the Pac-12 hasn't been known for being this juggernaut of a conference.
Right, but that's
lack of defense.
But that's where you and I differ, is because they are not deep on defense because of all of the turnover that they've had. I think they have like 5 defensive linemen, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
What happens in late in games, right? You get in the trenches, games are won and lost.
Substitution.
If they don't have the energy, the stamina, and the strength to compete, in the fourth quarter in a close game, I think they go down. So I'm in the minority. I think 5 wins. I think 6 is probably their ceiling.
Okay.
I think 5 wins is a great year for Deion there. And then, of course, they're going to the Big 12 after this year, so we'll see how that translates. But I'm interested to see what happens with Deion there. To see him on, big-time football. He's in the Pac-12 for this year, and he's, like I said, he's going to be going to the Big 12 next year. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how his game and his game planning and his relationships with, I don't want to say kids that are better, but for lack of better terms, they are better. I mean, they're better athletes at D1 than they were at Jackson State. Seeing how his coaching translates to a group of young men that maybe see football a little bit differently than they would if they were at Jackson State.
The IQ is just a little bit
not even
higher.
That, the aspirations.
Okay,
right. So
gotcha.
I mean, you've got kids that are going to Colorado. What's their goal? What's their next step?
Let's go to the next games.
Let's go to the next level.
To win 2 games.
Go to the next level. At Jackson State, it's, hey, I'm going to put in my time here. Maybe I can transfer to a D1 school if I show out, but then I got to prove myself all over again. You're already at a D1 school. You've got NFL talent looking at you. Yeah, you got Deion there. They're definitely looking at you. So,
that's the selling point, right?
100%.
100%. All right, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to take a quick time out, and when we return, we'll keep on rolling around the conferences with our dark horses.
ESPN Northwest Florida. We're the radio home of the Mosley Dolphins.
High school football is back. This Thursday night, we're going under the lights. It's the Mosley Dolphins versus the Rutherford Rams, live from Tommy Oliver Stadium. Cover starts Thursday at 6:30, kickoff at 7. Listen live right here on your home for the Mosley Dolphins. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with Wednesday's weather forecast. Mostly sunny the remainder of the day with temps near 96 and a wind between 8 to 12 miles per hour. Mostly clear skies tonight, a light breeze out of the east and a temperature of 81. About the same tomorrow, around 92 with sunshine and a wind coming out of the east at 8 miles per hour. Hot with a high around 93 and sunny Friday. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Are you tired of hearing 2 weeks when you call to get your boat worked on? Hey folks, it's Chris Kramer with Kramer Marine and Outdoor, and we'll get you in and back out on the water as quick as possible. We're a full-line Yamaha outboard dealer and Suzuki outboard dealer, and we have master-trained certified mechanics on site. So if it's just an annual service, electronics install, trolling motor install, or all the way up to a full repower, we can take care of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM, or call us at 850-851-0453.
Hello, this is Rick Vossen with RV of Panama City, your local Stormore portable building dealer, located at 2241 East Baldwin Road. Shopping for a garage, portable building, cabin? We build them anywhere from 8 to 16 foot wide, 10 feet to 60 feet long. We can do insulation, electricity, transom dormers, thermal windows. Come, let's customize a building together. Rick Vossen, Stormore portable building dealer, Panama City.
He likes to idle his Kia while eating almonds and listening to Linkin Park in the Walgreens parking lot.
White people love trail mix.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs.
Oh, they love it. Love it. Eat it every day.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
They love it.
At least my Kia's got a bow tie, baby. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. It's David Hayes and Adam Goff, and we're going over some dark horses, but we do have someone on the line, and you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. What's going on? Are you there? He is not. So We'll just keep on moving on then. Appreciate the call and give us a call back. We'll get you on the air here. I'm going to go ahead and drop this. But we were talking about some, what were we talking about?
College football, dark horses.
Dark horses, that's right. I was going to say underdogs for some reason.
Well, it's because we are the Afternoon Underdogs.
Exactly, and we love the underdogs. I don't think there's anything better than rooting for an underdog and then that bet hitting or you just being right about the underdog, especially when you're calling major underdog upsets.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if we have a few of those. I don't think we'll see any in week 0, but in week 1, possibly. I mean, you think Navy could take down Notre Dame?
I don't think so. I think there's two different styles of play. I mean, watching Navy over the last few years, since coming on this station, I know it's been a big deal. Us talking about, the Army-Navy game and everything in old school, really, really kind of pushing everybody to go watch that. It got me to start watching it and listening to it on radio. And John Sadak actually calls that game for Westwood One right here on on ESPN, the guy from the voice of the Reds on TV. Yeah.
So we're going to have to get him on here. I know you guys have had him on the Seeing Reds podcast.
I can send him a message on Twitter, see if he responds.
Absolutely.
See if he responds.
Yeah, X. And if that doesn't work, then I'll use our other contact to get him.
There you go. I mean, I got Notre Dame in that game. I don't think it's
They're like a 20.5 point favorite as of yesterday, and then you've got San Jose State and USC. I mean, there's games that I'm going to at least watch the highlights. The Navy-Notre Dame game, the reason that I would watch more than, half of that is just because of Will Smiley going up there from Bay, and so it'd be interesting to see how much kind of playing time he gets. But we know how it is in college football, right? Like, just, year 1 for you, unless you're just some extremely outrageous talent, you're not going to get a whole lot of playing time. But maybe because it's one of those games where the spread is big, we could see Will Smiley. I have no idea what's in the cards for him, but I'm definitely looking for him. And same way,
and rooting for him 100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anybody, I don't care where you go to school. I don't care if it's NAIA. I don't care if it's D2. If I can find your stuff, I'm going to I'll keep up with your statistics along the way, because it's so cool just the fact that you recognize the name, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So let's go over to the Big 12 then. Who are some, the 4 new schools, right? Mm-hmm. Houston, BYU, you got Cincinnati and UCF. Of those 4 teams, who do you think is best fit for the Big 12 year 1?
Gus Malzahn and UCF, honestly.
That's me. Shout out Randy Pittman.
Yeah, I really, really do. I mean, we've seen those UCF teams play really, really, good teams and play them very, very well over the last couple years. They've been bitten by the injury bug the last couple of years as well, especially at quarterback position. But with Gus Malzahn being there, his second year now, so third year?
It might be his third year.
Might be his third year, yeah. So,
they did moving 2 years with Harsin over there in Auburn.
And it's not like he hasn't coached in a big conference before.
Right.
So I would say they're probably my favorite dark horse in the Big 12, of the entire Big 12, not just the new ones.
I agree with you. For me, it's UCF as well, and I'm really interested to see how Randy Pittman fits in over there as well. What about Satterfield with Cincinnati now? He's your former coach, but is he in a better position now with Cincinnati in the Big 12 than he was with Louisville in the ACC? Or is that apples to oranges?
In a better situation in terms of his job security, or in terms of success?
Job security, because it's year one, so he has more job security.
Or you're talking about just overall success?
Yeah, just like is his style of offense and defense maybe a better fit for the type of football they play over there in the Big 12?
He doesn't like to play defense, so yes.
Yeah, there you go.
So, he fits right in with the Big 12. Now, obviously, you've got Oklahoma and Texas that are leaving. You've got Colorado coming in, which is still another big question mark.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely going to be probably a better situation for him in terms of his ability to have success, because he loves running the ball, whether it's on 3rd and long, 2nd and long, whatever. The only thing I think he's going to struggle with is if they get down early.
Yeah.
And they try to play catch up.
Yeah.
That's where Cincinnati's going to find trouble in the Big 12, because Satterfield loves to run the ball. And if they get down by 10, 12, 14 points, you're going to have to see him become one-dimensional. And that's where Satterfield got in trouble with Louisville, was falling behind early and then trying to play catch up. When Louisville led by 6-7 points, they were very, very good, very successful. But when they got up 13 points, they always seemed to give it away. Or if they were down by 10 points, they always seemed to end up getting beat. It's just because the style of play is kind of grind it out, take your shot deep later on, when you have your opportunity. But the defense would get turnovers, but it really wasn't enough to overcome the other team, doing what they do.
Right.
I mean, perfect example, his first year at Louisville went to Wake Forest, and this wasn't the Wake Forest of a couple years ago. This was still an up-and-coming kind of Wake Forest team. And Louisville won 62-59.
Oh, I remember that.
Right. I mean,
yeah,
it was
that
wild.
game.
It was absolutely crazy.
Talk about back and forth.
Right, but I mean, that's the kind of game that, he's going to have to win in the Big 12, and I just hope he's able to recruit to that level to, on the offensive side of the ball to keep up with that, because defensively he's not going to be able to scheme well enough to hold some of these teams down.
You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, and if you're a fantasy football player, make sure that if you've already signed up for the league, if you've already sent your name and email, go ahead and check your email. I've sent you guys one probably 2 or 3.
Did you send me one already?
2 weeks ago. Yeah, definitely. So I've sent them out, and I've sent them out a couple of times as well, and if it didn't come through, don't fret on it. We don't need your email necessarily for the live draft, and we'll get it all worked out there. I've had a couple of people drop out this week with things going on. The live draft is this Saturday at Dave & Buster's at 11 a.m. If you'd like to participate, it's totally free. All you got to do is text your name and your email to 850-215-6290. And we'll tell you what to do from there. But the main thing is you have to be there for the live draft. We're not doing anything mobile or anything like that. I know things come up and it's not great, but it is the way that we're running it.
And honestly, the best part about that is us being able to meet and greet some of the folks that listen every day that we either don't get a chance to talk to on the radio, on the air, or through Facebook or chat, text message or whatever, but also the ones that do communicate with us on a regular. And it's always nice to put a face to a name. And it's really cool when you can get folks in there, and whether it's they enjoy your takes or they hate your takes or they just love listening because it's sports talk. Whatever the case may be, it's always a good time. So make sure you come on out, get signed up, send Dave an email, and let's get the ball rolling.
Yep, you just text your name and your email to 850-215-6290. It's going to be a PPR league. We're not done talking about dark horses right now either. I just felt like segueing real quick just to, we've only got a couple of days here before the draft, and I want to get those leagues filled and not have to walk into Dave & Buster's and just go recruit random people. You know what I mean? But it's going to be a PPR league, all settings other than, it's all status quo. Like, I'm not going in there and changing any settings. It's a 12-man league. It is PPR. It's, it's played a week 18.
4 leagues?
Yeah, 4 different leagues, so they're all staying the same. There's nothing, crazy to know. Your scoring system is essentially, if you look on ESPN and it says that your player's got 27.8 points and you go to the league, it's going to say you got 27.8 points. So there's nothing crazy outlandish about it. The one rule I would say from your draft is you do have to draft a full roster, meaning kicker and defense at the draft. Because, with it being 12-man and everything, I just feel like that's the right way to do it.
I think that should be the way you do it. It just keeps everything fair and simple. It makes people pay attention to what's going on. So
yeah, exactly. And that's and then the only other thing outside of that is just set your lineup week in and week out. Don't get discouraged. You got to play spoiler down the stretch. But it's going to be a great time. We had a great turnout last year, and hoping to have I know as of right now we're going to have 43 to 44 people, because 12 times 4 is 48.
Worst case scenario, we go to 10-team leagues.
Yeah,
and the other
I
ones.
can always pencil whip it to see. However, then he also said, will there be a computer there to see who is still available? I would suggest bringing your cell phone or whatever, and just kind of,
so we're doing it on our phones?
No.
I've got sticker boards and all that?
Shout out to Ryan Mulvey for going ahead and getting those things going. And if you'd like to sponsor that for just $100, well, we could probably do $50 per board, or $100 for all the boards if you want to. We could do $50 a board or something like that, and we'll throw your logo up on the fantasy draft. Definitely we'll be working more on that for next year. But yeah, thanks to Ryan for helping out. And it's a board that's up on the wall, kind of like a little banner or whatever. It's got slots for each team. I know you know this. I'm just explaining.
No, I got you. Yeah, I'm with you.
And you've got stickers, and they're all color-coded by position. And then, so you'll be able to see who's available just from the stickers that are left there. And it's up to you to figure out your sleepers and all of that good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And best available, right? Because best available is kind of hard. So you got to have your finger on the pulse. I'm also thinking about printing off some ADP sheets, average draft position, and that way it gives everyone an idea. So if you haven't done any,
scratch off, so you're not trying to go up and thinking you're drafting the a player and they've already been taken and whatnot. Yeah.
So, Kyle, if you didn't get an email, it's all right, brother. We will work it out, man. That's the biggest thing is I've got a spreadsheet going with everyone's name and email and what league they're in, so I'm kind of keeping track of it there, and then also checking the leagues to make sure that you've accepted your invite. But that's not the crucial part. The crucial part is that 12 people per league are showing up to Dave & Buster's for our live draft, and it's going to be a great time. We're going to be back there in the function rooms, but I'm still going to be reaching out to everyone and making sure it's just a slow process. We've got a lot of things going on down here at ESPN Northwest Florida. So send your name and your email to 850-215-6290. A dark horse for the Big 12. Who's your favorite for the Big 12? Let's start there. It's pretty much Texas, right?
I mean, I think it is for everybody, but I'd love to see Gundy get one in Oklahoma State. That dude has put in his time. He's put in the effort. He's been close. It's just not really ever come to fruition for him. So I'm pulling for Oklahoma State, I think, this year in the Big 12, particularly with Oklahoma and Texas abandoning ship. So, we saw TCU last year make a run. Let's give Gundy a shot.
Yeah. I think that's is that a dark horse, or is that's your favorite? You're going to ride with that being your favorite?
I'm going to go with that's my favorite.
All right. For me, it's Texas. I've actually got Texas and Oklahoma, and the second part of this is going to sound
so you're a playing yours guy.
No, I just I've got them going. Okay, if I was putting money on it, they would be under 10.5 wins or whatever.
Okay.
Right? Just because I can't believe in the hype that keeps going. But when I look at the schedule, and then you do see all of the hype that's going around, then for me it's 11-1. Now Oklahoma, I really don't believe this, but again, it could very well work out like this. Either they're going to be about the same as they were last year, maybe a little bit better, or all the way better if Brent Venables gets that defense fixed. And then Dylan Gabriel, that was a big reason of those losses last year, was not having their starting quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. So as much as that sounds, it is an excuse, but we're not talking about 2022. We're talking about 2023. So I have Oklahoma and Texas going 11-1, which I don't believe that very heavily, but I think that it's going to be a Texas-Oklahoma with all of this maneuvering
You're such
going
an SEC
on.
homer.
No, I'm really not. But with all this maneuvering around, this has nothing to do really with the SEC. They're going to the SEC, yes, but with it being their final year in the Big 12, what better way than to leave the Big 12 than a Texas-Oklahoma?
No, it's a great story.
Yeah,
right. It's a phenomenal
and that's
story.
Pretty much
it's
the way that I do predictions.
Right, I hear you. And you got to think Venables is going to have that defense at Oklahoma playing a lot better in his second season than they did in that first season, right? Where he gets his own personnel in there. The personnel that is there, they've now got another full year under their belt with him. We saw the defenses that he had at Clemson, and for all the love that, Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence and all those guys got, those defenses were legit. Those defenses kept Clemson in there when they had DJU, who we spoke about earlier. They kept them in games. So Venables, I think, is going to figure it out. It's just, can he have an offense that keeps up with the rest of the Big 12?
We've got 2 minutes until the race to Daytona. Make sure that you've got your phones ready and you've got 850-215-6290 dialed in, because here at 440 we're going to announce who the random wheel generator picked this afternoon. Cincinnati Reds must have did something good, but let's go to our dark horses of the Big 12 right now, or a dark horse for the Big 12. For me, I love the Oklahoma State pick. For some reason, though, I'm going to go Baylor here with Dave Aranda as my dark horse.
The offense is a question for me. I think their defense is good enough to play in the Big 12 and compete at a high level. It's whether or not they can replace the pieces that they lost last year.
Right.
Because they were close. They were close in that top 10 and all that good stuff. So I like that pick. I think UCF is being slept on here, and I know we talked about him as far as being of the new four that are coming in. However, as much as you want to disparage Gus Malzahn for how he left things before he went to UCF, the dude can still coach, and if he's got a team that doesn't have a bullseye on its back and there's not that same pressure, it's nothing but rainbows and ponies coming out of everybody's butts over there in UCF, right? And, they're going to the Big 12. They've got a big-time coach. What do they have to lose? Nothing. And they're going to be playing like that. And they're going to a conference that is so offensive-heavy that I feel like Gus Malzahn has an advantage there because they haven't seen him in that offense.
Yeah.
And, there's tape, obviously, but there's something to be said for when you see a team over and over and over and over again that what drives them. Big 12 doesn't know what drives Gus Malzahn at UCF.
The Gus bus.
Right. So we'll see how they do. I like them as my dark horse.
How cool of a storyline would that be for UCF, who in 2017 had their own rendition of the shared title, which is what it is, but a great season they had. That's what I was really getting to, is a phenomenal season, one of those Cincinnati type seasons a few years back. Well, they do that this year, and there's no question of keeping them out of the playoffs unless Michigan, Ohio State, or one of those two could be undefeated. And then Georgia and Alabama, they can't go undefeated if they meet in the SEC championship game, right? So we'll have to see how it all shakes out. Could be a lot of fun. And then if UCF gets a big win over Texas in the Big 12 title game, who knows how it could play out. But, it's nice to see these teams with a real... It may not seem legit, but it is a bigger opportunity, a real shot at the title compared to what it was when they were a group of five school in a great conference nonetheless, because there's still some great conferences down there that are not Power 5 conferences. They just don't get the same love that some of the other schools do. All right, it is time now. Trey, you are on the clock. Trey, you are on the clock for the race to Daytona.
The PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Mondays at 5:20 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
That is a very high-end card and very rare.
Todd talks about coins, trading cards, collectibles, and the amazing stories behind them.
It was the first one that's ever come through my door.
Plus, we'll be taking your calls and questions at 850-215-6290. The PCB Hobby Takeover.
A platform for you to do your hobby.
Mondays at 5:20 on the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with Wednesday's weather forecast. Mostly sunny the remainder of the day with temps near 96 and a wind between 8 to 12 miles per hour. Mostly clear skies tonight, a light breeze out of the east, and a temperature of 81. About the same tomorrow, around 92 with sunshine and a wind coming out of the east at 8 miles per hour. Hot with a high around 93 and sunny Friday. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
ESPN Northwest Florida is an active member of the Panama City Beach Chamber. We want to introduce the newest members to the Beach Chamber. Dynamic Photography Incorporated, Hightower Industries, LLC, Kitchen Designs, KTV Builders, Mr. Hibachi at Home, Neon's Beach Shack, and PCB Cigars. Congratulations from the only local sports talk station, ESPN Northwest Florida. It's football season. There is no better place to catch the action than Barefoot. The food, the atmosphere, and your favorite teams are at Barefoot's 3 locations. Barefoot on the Bay, St. Andrews, Barefoot Hideaway, Front Beach, and Barefoot on the Beach on Front Beach. Great food, comfortable atmosphere, amazing views, and plenty of exciting football. Sunday ticket at Barefoot Hideaway. Plus, get your free logoed Barefoot cup with the purchase of a frozen drink during every game, along with drink specials and tasty football fun zone appetizers. Barefoot. Eat, drink, and unwind.
Often imitated, never duplicated. The official sports station of the Panhandle. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. It's the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm David Hayes along with AG, that's Adam Goff. Right State Chris says LSU has a better chance of being one loss than Bama. Now, obviously, biasly, I am not really even going to entertain that question. However, AG, how do you feel about it?
LSU is that team for me in the SEC. We talked about it last week.
I don't disagree.
I think we talked about it last week off air that, if they come out of the gate hot, take care of FSU, they're that team, I think, that would, under Kelly in his second season there, could really, really make some noise and do some damage. In terms of winning it all, I don't know, maybe make the playoffs.
But he's just saying better one loss, or a better chance at only having one loss is LSU. But look.
No, I don't think so. I think Alabama probably has the better chance there.
I believe.
Alabama
is playing in Bryant-Denny this year too.
Yeah, Alabama's toughest opponent outside of the SEC is Texas. I believe it's in Tuscaloosa. Mm-hmm. So that bodes well for them. I think it's
I'll say, I think why it's easy to say that and why I agree. Here's why I agree that LSU has a better shot outside of my fandom here, but from the realistic side, what is the conversation surrounding the University of Alabama right now? The quarterback competition, if you want to call it that.
Have they announced yet?
No, they have not announced, and I highly doubt that you're going to get any. No, it doesn't really bother me because it really shows that no one separated themselves. Mm-hmm. I think the guy that I would choose would be Ty Simpson. I wouldn't be surprised to see Buckner go first, but then there's something about me that says, or that thinks, Saban normally goes with experience, and which quarterback on that Alabama roster has the most experience? Jalen Milroe. Mm-hmm. And that is the exact reason why I'm okay with all the confidence from LSU and why I agree with you on that is you got Jaden Daniels coming back, so you're solidified there at the quarterback position. Brian Kelly in year 2, I think that's great news, right? And then also Harold Perkins is a force to be reckoned with. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I realistically, I can see that all day long.
Yeah, and just looking at the schedule there, once LSU gets past, Florida State, assuming they do, end up beating Florida State, I mean, their schedule's laid out well for them the rest of the way. I mean, at Ole Miss, it will be tough, but, I mean, here's the rest of it. I don't really see another loss. I mean, Texas A&M, last game of the season, at home. They're at Alabama, which, again, that game can go either way.
Yeah.
So
it did last year.
Yeah, right. So we'll see how that plays out. But, yeah, I mean, Alabama has so many question marks, and that's the first time in 7 years we've had
the
these
defense is
question
supposed
marks.
to be improved, but shoot, they were supposed to be elite last year, and it really didn't shake out that way. It'll be interesting. But what's going to happen? Now, I don't want this to happen, but what would happen, hypothetically speaking, Texas goes into Bama, and Bama beats them like 45-20 or something. Now what is everyone's conversation going to be? Alabama's winning the SEC with that overreaction type stuff, and that's just why it's like, doesn't matter what anyone out there is saying right now. Not even Phil Steele, who I would, elevate to one of the best college football predictors, right?
Yeah.
But no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows who the quarterback for Bama is going to be. No one knows how. Even the Florida Gators, we can look at it and be like, yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to see 6 wins for you guys. But all of a sudden, they get on the field and Graham Mertz is slinging that thing. Then you know what I mean?
Yeah,
we're in preseason, not even preseason right now.
It's wild that there's so many question marks in the SEC.
Yeah.
Obviously, Georgia being Georgia, but we don't know what they're going to be offensively.
Right.
New quarterback, right? Trying to figure things out.
Yeah, Georgia.
We know the defense is going to be solid because they just keep filling the same way Alabama does. But there's still like a lot of question marks in the SEC. And I'm trying to remember a time where we had the big dogs of the SEC where there were this many question marks.
It's so
and it
many
speaks to the
of them.
parity in college football now,
Yeah,
too.
and I guess you have to give a little shout out to NIL and the transfer portal for all of that as well. Which quarterback competition, controversy, if you will, even though like Georgia's isn't a competition anymore, right? Carson Beck's the starter. But throughout this offseason, it's really been Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, right? Those are the 3 most watched and talked about quarterback competitions. Which one are you the most confident in, and like kind of rank your confidence in those 3? And I'll go first. I'll say Ohio State 1. I'm most confident in them because they seem to be like the San Francisco 49ers, where it's plug and play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Ryan Day's offense. And,
right, exactly. I mean, before that, you know, and like JT Barrett, then I would go Alabama, then I would go Georgia. The reason behind that, and this is, you can take it for what it's worth, but Kirby developing quarterbacks, like, you know what I mean? It hasn't been the greatest to this point. So we'll see how it works out. It worked out great with Stetson Bennett.
But he was 35, though. Right, he was coaching himself for the last 20 years.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, though. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm getting at, is he had been through so many regimes and everything and so many different stops, and he gained a lot of experience. But so that's kind of my thought on it. And you could trust him in the big moments. We can't say, like when Carson Beck came in, and he came in a lot last year, especially in those fourth quarters, but even when he came in the national championship, like, yes, there's still kind of that pressure because it's the national championship and the lights are just a little bit brighter, but scoreboard. You know what I mean? Like, there's not that much pressure. In fact, I feel like it's almost momentum to some extent when you're in the national championship, final game of the year, and TCU ain't bringing everything that they got at that point.
No, and I mean, at that point, that game was a scrimmage, for all intents and purposes. The game was completely out of hand. So I'm with you. I think I would give Georgia the edge here in this, though, because they've named a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirby's got, Beck is our guy.
Yeah.
That's who we're going with. That's who we're riding with. Alabama is still, granted, you're talking about, Nick Saban, who is the Bill Belichick of college football. Like,
right.
We're on to Cincinnati. We don't talk about anything football related, right? He wants to talk about everything else under the sun.
Yeah.
But when it comes to decisions with his football team, everything is kind of on the down low, right? Everything's hush hush,
right?
But again, you can have these question marks about Alabama, but it's still a Nick Saban coach football team.
Well, yeah, but that's
But as
this
far as
conversation
but
right
as
here
far as
is
the
just
three of
about
them, though,
confidence in the quarterback room.
I'm probably Ohio State, Georgia, then Alabama.
All right, that's fair. I would say that Carson Beck, let's say Carson Beck's on Alabama, I would say that he would be named the starter by now, outside of the experience from Jalen Milroe. And hey, we could talk about that experience, but from a fan watching it, it wasn't a great experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 5 touchdowns, sure, that's great. 3 interceptions.
Well,
you
big
run
thing
well,
about
but
Milroe,
you're not very accurate.
The big thing about Milroe was his ability to take off and run. Right. He wasn't able to throw the ball very well last year that we saw. But where Alabama was strong was on that option with Jahmyr Gibbs, who is no longer there. So if I'm an Alabama fan, that's where I'm worried about Milroe being there because, I don't know what Alabama's got coming back in the backfield, but I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be there. He's in Detroit now.
It's not Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, I like the combination because you got Jace McClellan, speedy guy, and then you've got Roydell Williams, who's going to be like your power kind of guy. So, I think that they're fine in the running back room. I'm not too worried about that. It really does come down to quarterback, and that's the most important position on the offense. Let's just say that. I would say
just
entire
side
field.
note, tangent. This is how we roll in Afternoon Underdogs here in the Doghouse. How old are we that Dre Kirkpatrick, Alabama cornerback's son, is now in college?
Bro, that was the first thing
I'm like, what? How many years has it been?
Because he got drafted by the Bengals.
He did.
Yeah. So, I was like, man, it hasn't been that long, has it? Gosh. I'm only 32 years old, bro. Are you?
Right. I was like, holy cow, are you kidding me?
Oh, man.
But no, man, how awesome is that being able to see some of the kids that we watched, growing up and even now, 10 years ago or whatever, and now you see their relatives, whether it's their nephew, niece, their kid, their own kid or whatever coming up. It's awesome.
Yeah, even Tom Brady, even though it's not in football, but with Maya Brady in softball, and then Joey Porter Jr. last year. Now he's on the Steelers. There's so many of those connections, and I love it because we saw it not too long ago really take off in baseball, especially with those Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh, I was getting ready to say Biggio and Bichette and Guerrero. Yeah,
and as a child, as a kid growing up watching baseball, those were big names in baseball. So now that they're doing their thing at the level, like at the major league level, it's just so cool.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see the thirds though. Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
We will hear in about 8 years at this point.
Yeah,
at this
right? Golly, these generations just keep on going. It's like I'm reading Genesis or something.
All right, so dark horse SEC.
You want to go SEC or
Let's
you
go
want to
SEC
finish up
first.
with SEC?
Well, we've been talking about SEC with Alabama.
Okay, yeah,
Georgia.
let's go that way.
SEC.
All right, so favorite to win the SEC, I'm going to say Georgia until it's not Georgia, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's fair. And then my dark horse, I've got horses. I don't think Tennessee is going to live up to what they did last year.
Okay.
I think Alabama's going to wreck them. But again, wait till we get a little closer to that game, I guess, for me to be throwing out stuff because Tennessee did win last year, so they deserve the credit where credit is due. I'll say my dark horse is going to be, I'm going to give you 2 of them, and they're both going to come out of, actually, I'm going to give you 3. Because my favorite in the West, now I won't do that. My favorite in the West, I'm going to stick with LSU. I'm going to say that my favorite, mentally speaking, is LSU because of the
favorite
problems.
dark horse.
No. Favorite in the West to represent the West is going to be LSU. Okay. Georgia's the favorite to win the East and the title.
Okay.
The SEC title. I'm not even going to call Alabama a dark horse because they're in that favorite tier. Mm-hmm. All right. So Texas A&M, just because we talked about this last week or the week prior to that, like you're just not hearing a lot about them. And Bobby Petrino taking over that offense, or at least in the offensive coordinator role, who knows how that will roll. And then my other one is going to be Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin starts out hot every year, and then they just kind of cool off when it matters the most. But the class that they have over there, the amount of options that they have at the quarterback position, and then the Reese's let go of or put out their Senior Bowl watch list today, and Ole Miss has 20 players on that list.
Wow.
So there's something there. I know, so
Right.
I'm going to call Ole Miss a dark horse.
Okay.
And I think Ole Miss knocks off Georgia. In Georgia.
Ooh.
I can't say that I came up with that take, but Brian Haddad did.
Yeah.
And last year, all year long, before the season even started, he said, and he's an Alabama guy, he said Tennessee's going to beat Alabama. That happened, and this has been his, trap game for Georgia this year, so I'm going to ride that till the coattails fall off.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, reliable source there, if you will. Dark horse for me, I think LSU is that dark horse, but again, like you said, they've been a perennial favorite in the SEC for how many years now? So can you truly call them a dark horse? In some regards you can, others not so much. I know we're getting ready to go to a break. How about South Carolina?
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one. I think it's another 8-4 year for them, though.
Possibly.
Right.
But that's why they're a dark horse.
Exactly. That's going to do it for us here in hour number 1. We're going to lead off hour number 2 with Sam Peebles, talk a little bit about those Cincinnati Reds, those Atlanta Braves, and everything else. If you have any questions for Sambo, text them in at 850-215-6290, or you can follow us there on Facebook where we have our live feed going on right now. It's the Afternoon Underdogs, and this is ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The Afternoon Underdogs.
And I don't think Commanders is going to stick either, though. I think that there's something, I can't remember what it is, some type of issue, copyright, copyright issue with that. So it wouldn't be surprising to me at all if maybe they revert back to the football team for 2 years or so. And then,
listen, they made the playoffs.
4 to 6 weekdays. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with Wednesday's weather forecast. Mostly sunny the remainder of the day with temps near 96 and a wind between 8 to 12 miles per hour. Mostly clear skies tonight, a light breeze out of the east and a temperature of 81. About the same tomorrow, around 92 with sunshine and a wind coming out of the east at 8 miles per hour. Hot with a high around 93 and sunny Friday. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
At Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, you can find all the necessary items for an unforgettable fishing experience. From pin rods and reels to the best hand-tied rigs in Florida, we have it all. With the help of our friendly and knowledgeable staff, you can be sure that you have the right gear to make that big catch. Come experience a great local bait and tackle shop located directly off 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach, located just 5 miles west of Pier Park.
You're home to the NFL. WGSX Lynn Haven. WVLQ Port St. Joe. ESPN Northwest Florida.
As the Atlanta Braves continue to battle through the National League, they've got all of baseball on notice that they're ready to make another run.
Swung on, driven to deep center. That's in the water. 2-run jack again for Matt Olson.
Tonight, Truist Park comes alive for another huge NL East battle as Sean Murphy and the Braves take on the New York Mets in Atlanta.
Coverage starts at 6. First pitch at 6:20. On your home for the Atlanta Braves on the Gulf Coast. ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. He entered a kids' 1-mile fun run and came in 9th. David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs. Weekdays 4 to 6 on ESPN Northwest Florida and the ESPN Northwest Florida app.
Getting ready to Talk a little Braves with Sam Peebles. This is the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida. You can give us a call or text if you got any questions for Sam at 850-215-6290. Your Atlanta Braves got the win last night against the San Francisco Giants. I'm stuck in the past right now. The New York Mets answering back after that first game in the series loss, but coverage tonight starts at 6 o'clock. First pitch tonight at 6:20 against the New York Mets. The Braves are sponsored locally by Best Way Portable Buildings, Dave & Buster's, PCB Hobby, and Gulf Coast Aquarium. Now on the line with us, Sam Peebles, host and creator of the Braves Dugout podcast. What's going on, Sam?
It's going great. How's it going with you guys?
Oh, man, it's a little spicy out here, but hopefully the Braves can keep it, make it even hotter than tonight, man. What do you think, and what's your expectations from Game 3 of the series this evening?
It's going to be interesting. As most fans know, Charlie Morton is very streaky. His ERA is pretty decent, but he walks a lot of people, and the Mets are the type of team that hit a bunch of singles, and when you put a bunch of people on via walk, that's the recipe for not exactly the best type of performance. But, you know, the Mets are not the same Mets that the Braves played earlier in the season, and Charlie Morton's been on a semi-hot streak lately, so I do think that it'll be a fun game, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and Ozuna and Rosario right now just in it to an extent carrying the team right now. What do you think about their production, and do the peripherals look good moving forward?
Oh, yeah, they definitely look good, especially Ozuna. He's always been the type of guy, as hard as he hits the ball, that whenever he goes through a drought, typically it's more bad luck-based than it is how he's swinging the bat. As of right now, in the month of August, he has a runs created plus of 180, which means he's hitting the ball 80% better. Well, his production has been 80% better than league average. And only two players in the National League have been better in the month of August, and that's Bryce Harper and Mookie Betts.
Whoa, that's a lot of nice talent there. It's a good category to be in.
Definitely.
Who's the team right now that's in the wild card picture, or who is the team in the National League that the Braves should be maybe not scared of but aware of?
Well, I mean, in the National League, the Dodgers are not in the wild card hunt, but they've been on a scorcher lately, and they've got guys coming back healthy. And so the Dodgers are looking more and more healthy. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts are both playing like MVPs right now, and the Dodgers are more and more healthy as the season goes on. So I'd be worried about the Dodgers, but as far as the National League goes, it's extremely top-heavy. You've got, whereas in the American League, you've got teams to worry about in every division. Essentially, you've got Houston, Texas, and Seattle are all
Toronto.
very good teams. Yeah, and then in the East, you've got Baltimore, the Rays, Toronto. All of them are good teams. Whereas in the National League, it's very, very top-heavy. You've got pretty much the Braves and the Dodgers and everyone else. Milwaukee, they're okay. They've got not a very good offense, so their rotation would have to, and their rotation and their bullpen would really have to carry them, and that can work in a short series, like a 5-game series. So maybe, but we've seen that the Braves match up very well against Milwaukee over the past few years, and their rotation's pretty much the same. At least their top arms are pretty much the same from what the Braves have seen the past few years.
What are the Braves looking like for a playoff rotation? Are we looking at a 3-man or a 4-man rotation?
I would imagine they're probably going to, for a short series, go 3-man, and then a longer series go 4-man. But with the bullpen they have, I wouldn't be shocked if we see like a 3-man rotation with an opener type deal.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, it's hard to say because Bryce Elder, he's not been excellent over the second half of the season. But at the same time, over his past few starts, he's been able to limit runs. The peripheral say he's getting lucky, so it really depends on the analytics department if they want him to be that fourth guy or not.
And
I think it's go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just going to tack on there. It's I think Elder is the perfect candidate to have that opener for, right? So where if he's seeing a guy for that third time in the lineup, maybe it's in the 6th inning, 7th inning, hopefully, because he's gotten that opener out of the way, and they've gone maybe an inning and a third. Then you bring in Elder to kind of start cleaning things up, allow the Braves offense to get hot, and then you can go to your back half of your bullpen with Iglesias and shut them down that way. I think Elder would be the perfect candidate to bring in after an opener. But that's just me.
Yeah, actually, I think that's pretty smart, because if the opener is doing excellent, you can maybe leave them in for 2 or 3 innings, and if they're not, you can bring in Elder. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because it's pretty much a virtual lock that it's going to be Fried, Morton, and Strider, not necessarily in that order. That's going to be pitching as the 3, and then if the Braves decide to go with the 4th guy, if Kyle Wright isn't back and ready to go, then it would be Bryce Elder. But again, I don't think Kyle Wright will be ready in time, so it's going to be really interesting to see. It's a good problem to have.
No, absolutely. So I've got a query for you, since you're our local baseball guru. What does someone, if anyone, and who would that be, what does someone have to do to supplant Corbin Carroll as NL Rookie of the Year, and who could that be?
Probably Ellie De La Cruz, just because of the hype that's been behind him. I mean, it's considerable and warranted hype, but he started in the season so late, so he had to make up a lot of ground. But I think really right now, he's really the only guy I can see that has a chance of beating him. I do think statistically, because Corbin Carroll's been playing from the beginning, anyone else is going to have a long shot of beating him. But De La Cruz, with the hype that came behind and how electric of a player he is, he'll definitely garner some votes. It's not going to be unanimously Corbin Carroll.
Well, and I understand the hype and everything else, but I'm going to stay on that same team with either Matt McLean or Spencer Steer, and I'm going to put my vote behind Matt McLean. I feel like what that kid has done for the entire team, his WAR is phenomenal. He's hitting 300. He's got almost 50 RBIs. I think he's at 14 home runs, and he came up, I think, May 22nd. And it's just so Matt McLean for me is my guy.
I would say from a statistical standpoint, absolutely. He's been one of the most underrated players in the sport. But he's been underrated, and humans make votes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, from a pure statistical standpoint, you're making a very logical and educated answer. Voters do not always look that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I'm with you, though. I am.
Right State Chris wants to know, what will the upcoming series against the Dodgers tell us?
Who's going to have home field advantage for the playoffs? That's, the Braves have a 4 or 5 game lead on them right now as far as home field throughout the playoffs. But, if the Dodgers sweep the Braves, then we can pretty much it's going to come down to the wire on who has home field advantage. If the Braves sweep the Dodgers, then it's pretty much over. I won't say it's over, but it's virtually over, because the Braves have a considerably easier schedule remaining than the Dodgers do.
Yeah, well, so let's say that the Braves do sweep the Dodgers. At what point do they start resting guys a little bit more frequently?
I'm hoping that with Nicky Lopez on the roster, and once Ozzie Albies comes back, Nicky Lopez can play all over the diamond. So I'm hoping that they just start like 1 day off here, 1 day off there. Not like hey, we're going to start, take out 3 starters and give them 2 to 3 days off at a time. That we've seen in the recent past, that did not work well. So I'm hoping that at least with this team. So I'm hoping it's going to be a Nicky Lopez will be like a super utility type that will give guys, even Matt Olson, put Nicky Lopez at first base. I don't care. Just start giving guys a day off here or there.
All right, good stuff there. I don't want to get to the end of the season too quickly, but it's like we've had such a great season. I'm ready for the playoffs here, but you know how that month of September can be, and we've seen it, not too far away in the past, given a 13-game lead a while back. So let's hope that doesn't happen this year. Matt Olson I don't want to say he's been struggling because he hasn't been struggling, but do you think he gets to 60 home runs this year?
Any fan of any team would take his struggles right now.
Oh, no, 100%. Unless you're a Braves fan out there in Twitter land or Facebook.
Right. Yeah, when a team's so good that you have to complain about Matt Olson, you have a really good team.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering if he can get to 60, in your opinion.
No, not a chance. Not this late in the season. That 17 home runs, I don't think that's going to happen. He'd be
36 left to go?
Yeah, that's one home run every 8 at bats. That's like Barry Bonds level.
All right.
So,
do the Braves overtake the Twins with 308 home runs to hold the single season record?
They're very, very close. I think they're on for being about 4 or 5 short.
Yeah.
Last time I checked. So they're really close. Matt Olson will have to start hitting a few more. What I really want to see is I want to see Sean Murphy hit 20 so that we can have the Braves can hold the record for the most players on the team with 20-plus home runs in the season.
7?
With 8.
8. Okay. Then 7 is the record, yeah.
I think 6 is with 25 home runs?
Yes, yeah.
And what are they, 1 away from that one?
Yep.
Yeah, buddy. But do we have anyone close enough to that? I don't have the numbers up in front of me.
Sean Murphy is within striking distance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see how it rolls out, man. It's been a heck of a season. Acuna or Freeman for MVP from Wright State, Chris?
I think if you look purely statistically, Freeman has a slight edge, but if you look at old school stats, like pure counting stats, Acuna has the edge, and that's typically right now how voters vote. So I would say if we're looking at a pure voter standpoint, what I think would happen is that Ronald Acuna wins. But if things stay exactly how they are right now, like how they're trending, I wouldn't be shocked if Mookie Betts takes over. So that's the one That's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah, I see odds like somewhere around plus 1,900. So if you're feeling that way, man, we need to make some money move.
Well, and I've had discussions with some.
Hold on, Sam. What you got?
So his runs created plus for the month of August is a 242. Just to put that in perspective, Aaron Judge last year had like a 180.
Oh my gosh!
So
wow.
So he's playing out of his mind right now, and if that continues throughout September, he's going to catch Ronald Acuna for sure.
Well, and I've had some conversations with some folks on Twitter and other social media platforms, and even conversations that if I'm Acuna, I'm more worried about Matt Olson getting hot. Now, granted, if he cares about winning the MVP, right? I'm more worried about Matt Olson getting hot and then those two cannibalizing each other and Freeman taking over, first place votes. Just because there's two players that are on top of the world right now and they play on the same team. And then you've got Freeman. Now, granted, he's got Mookie there, but what Olson is doing right now is transcendent, and what Acuna is doing right now is absolutely phenomenal. And then you've got Freeman doing his thing, and then you've got Mookie there as well. But I would be more concerned as a Braves fan that if Olson continues to do what he does, especially if he hits 60. I mean, if he gets 55 even at this point, does he start garnering first place votes in the MVP, which then takes away from Ronald Acuna, and then Freddie Freeman somehow sneaks in there with enough votes to take it?
Well, this is a perfect example.
Again, good
of
problem
why
to have.
Right. This is a perfect example of why I like the voting system for MVP and how it's not just you just vote for who you think MVP is, but you vote in places. So, like, if you get a first place vote, you get 15 points, and if you get a second place vote, you get 14, like that.
Yeah.
Because of that, I don't think that it will have as drastic of an effect as we might think. Because if it was just simply, I'm voting for someone for MVP and I'm voting for one person, then there would be those voters that would split votes between them because they play for the same team. There's, as much as we like to think that's not true, there are biases when it comes to voting.
Oh, sure.
West Coast, East Coast, whatever. And that could play an effect. But I think that with the scoring system the way it is, I don't think it's going to hurt as bad as we might think.
That makes sense.
Do you have anything else pertaining to the Braves? I kind of wanted to dig into Shohei Ohtani. I haven't been able to see exactly what's going on, but AG was telling me earlier, left his start in the second inning?
Second inning, yeah.
Is that a cause for concern for the future of Shohei Ohtani's contract?
I don't think, not unless it's like a Tommy John surgery or something.
Right.
I haven't seen what type of injury or anything yet. I was in class.
I think it was arm fatigue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he'll be fine. Yeah, he'll be fine.
It's that elbow, I think, that's been flaring up, but I don't think it's an elbow to the point where it's a Tommy John type situation.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think it's more a preventative measure because he kind of shook his head at his dugout like, no, I'm not okay. Like, I'm not feeling it right now.
Right.
And I don't know what the temperature is out there in L.A., but I can imagine.
I've been hearing it's hot.
I imagine it's cooking, especially with how moist it is out there after the flooding and everything. I can imagine it's miserable out there.
Weather kind of, similar to what we got. And y'all remember after Hurricane Michael, and then the sun came back out, and it was like, oh my gosh, man, this
is like we were in a microwave.
Hot-tober for sure. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out, though. Let's see. How about NL Cy Young? Is it Zach Gallen's to lose still?
I think so. A lot of the models are showing that Spencer Strider is going to catch him still. And Zach Gallen had a phenomenal start recently, but he's not had bad starts in the recent past, but he hasn't had like elite starts. But the same could be said for Spencer Strider. So I think that if it ended today, it would be Gallen. But I do think that there have been more pitchers that have come into the mix. Spencer Strider still has the edge as far as the models go. But it's that one I'm just going to be really excited to watch. Because me personally, I would not put money on anyone right now.
Over what about the AL Cy Young? What's that race looking like?
Oh man,
am I putting you on the spot here? We can go to a different question. Yeah. I've got one lined up.
The Cy Young is probably going to go to Ohtani. I mean,
oh yeah,
but
so MVP and Cy Young sweep. MVP Cy Young sweep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude.
But I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would disagree with me and say, but there's been so many injuries. It's tough to say in the AL. A lot of the top arms have been injured.
With the Yankees, which one do you think goes first, or do they both go, Boone or Cashman?
Oh, it'll be Boone. They're going to do a scapegoat firing on him for sure. For whatever reason, they love Cashman. He's going to stick around. Even though, I mean, if the Yankees haven't won a World Series since the mid-2000s, and they've been spending like they have. If Cashman was safe back then, he's still safe now. I don't think I'd be shocked if I see him get fired.
Yeah, for me, I mean, and I don't think it's entirely Boone's fault either. The roster construction, injuries.
Yeah.
I think a number of things have played a role. I don't think he helped his case with the flair for the dramatics that he has on arguing balls and strikes. Now all that being said, I think he was absolutely correct, not on that one call, but over the course of the game, that he was absolutely correct in his assumption that balls and strikes weren't being called correctly. But I don't think he's helping himself in that regard, because he's making himself look foolish. Meanwhile, his team is suffering an 8-game losing streak right now, and they're sitting there in the cellar right now in the least, and there's no positives in sight other than the fact that they're bringing up Everson Pereira, they're bringing up Oswald Peraza. They've still got Austin Wells there that they can pull up. So there's potential there, but it's all pretty much on the infield, and it's based on how they've developed and their rotation, other than Garrett Cole, who to me is probably having his best year in the bigs.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I changed my answer. I think Garrett Cole has the edge.
Yeah, I was wondering where the Garrett Cole argument was when you said Shohei, but I mean Garrett Cole's been having a phenomenal year on a rotation that has been him and the next guy up from AAA or even AA. So, but yeah, I would go Garrett Cole with AL Cy Young if it was me, and then. But Aaron Boone will get fired. I don't see Cashman getting kicked to the curb. I think what they'll do is they'll try to retool with a whole bunch of younger talent that they're bringing up through the pipeline because they are loaded in the minors. I mean, we talk about the Reds and we talk about the Pirates and, we talk about all these, the Mariners having all this wealth of talent. The Yankees are absolutely loaded as well. And it's just a matter of getting rid of some of those high-priced contracts that they shouldn't have signed in the first place, like a DJ LeMahieu, guys like that, kicking those guys out, eating those contracts, and then giving the younger guys a chance. Get younger, build it around Aaron Judge, and then move forward.
Yes, sir. Great stuff. Hey, Sam, we're out of time. Thanks so much, man. It was good catching up with you.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Hey, you do the same. That is Sam Peebles. He is the host and the creator of the Braves Dugout podcast, and I would definitely go follow him on Facebook or go add him as a friend on Facebook and Twitter as well. Twitter handle is @SPeeblesSports. I was going to say .com. There's no .com there. But yeah, go follow him there. I mean, the man not only has his own podcast, but he does a lot of writing for different organizations. And he's a great contributor to for the Atlanta Braves. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to be talking with Coach Andy Siegel when we get back.
ESPN Northwest Florida. We're the radio home of the Mosley Dolphins.
High school football is back. This Thursday night, we're going under the lights. It's the Mosley Dolphins versus the Rutherford Rams, live from Tommy Oliver Stadium. Cover starts Thursday at 6:30, kickoff at 7. Listen live right here on your home for the Mosley Dolphins. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida this Wednesday. For tonight, a variety of mostly clear skies and a likelihood of thunderstorms and a low of 81 with a light breeze coming out of the east at 6 miles per hour. Tomorrow morning, mostly sunshine with temps around 89. In the afternoon and evening, sunny with a gentle breeze and a temperature near 92. Moving into Friday, about the same with a high of 93 and sunshine. This forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Take your next adventure in an eco-friendly all-electric Kia EV6 that gives you the movement that inspires. You can live fully charged while saving now and down the road on fuel costs. Schedule a test drive today and explore the electrified Kia vehicles at Billboard Kia. You have to drive it to believe it. Now offering $7,500 EV lease bonus when you lease a new 2023 Kia EV6 wind electric all-wheel drive for 36 months. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology with a performance that minimizes the impact of our environment. Billboard Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. See us today at 2435 East 15th Street or BillboardKia@PanamaCity.com. We make it easy to switch to EV ownership and give you the peace of mind you can trust. Close-in lease based on a new 2023 Kia EV6, model number N5452. No security deposit required. $7,500 EV lease bonus not available for cash. Subject to credit approval, dealer participation, and vehicle availability. $49.99 due at signing for well-qualified leases. See dealer for complete details. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Billboard Kia warranty. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 9/5/23.
We're live and local. From Camp Helen State Park to the historic Martin Theater.
Definitely time to let our hair down and have some fun.
It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Back is the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 right here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. And it looks like we have a little bit of breaking news, Adam Goff, before we get over to the phone line and have Coach Andy Siegel on the line with us. It looks like the ACC is ramping up talks for adding Stanford, California, and SMU. They're going to have a series of meetings to be held this week. Coach Siegel, what do you think about that?
Oh my God, that is crazy. How about the travel rate there?
That's like the biggest thing.
all over the country now, though.
Right. Well, it is, but they could have, I feel like they could have done a little bit of a better job of maybe separating. Is it possible, in your opinion, Coach Siegel, to separate football and keep the other sports in their conferences?
Yeah, and they already do that. If you take a look at just let's go at Notre Dame right now. They're in the ACC in basketball, but football they're independent. And there's a whole lot of people that do that. You know, what's going to happen, and it's sad, is this is based, let's see if I'm right, the next 3 years will be football, basketball, period, and all the other sports will be in some kind of thing, whether it be the NCAA and the football, basketball has their own deal, because how are you going to see?
Did we lose Coach there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I was saying, okay, let's take tennis. Florida State tennis has to go out to Stanford. They can't afford that. Track, same thing. So your non-revenue sports aren't going to be able to afford it, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. What is the more wild travel? I guess it's the Big Ten, right? It's not even close.
Rutgers to USC.
Yeah, Rutgers to USC.
Yeah, I mean, the Big Ten might as well be called the Big Coast. I mean, it's like coast to coast now.
Ooh.
You go from Rutgers all the way to USC.
Well, I mean, you're going from what?
The Big Coast.
Charlotte out to Stanford. I mean, that's virtually the same thing.
I mean, you think about it. Almost every league except for the SEC is now bi-coastal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the Big 12 is getting there.
Yeah.
You know, they'll start working East Coast now, and the next thing you know, boom, they'll all be bi-coastal. So, you know, economically, okay, is this going to hurt Alabama or someone like that? No. But it's going to crush Stanford, you know, Cal, those guys that now are having to do these things. And SMU, okay, 1980s they might have been able to afford it. I don't see in 2023, 24 they're affording that.
Yeah, that is a good point. So Big Ten, SEC, obviously the top two conferences. In 2024, who's number 3 and 4 out of the? Well, we're not even going to consider the Pac-4 in this right now. the Big 12 or the ACC. Well, what's the stronger conference next year?
I never thought I would ever say this, but I gotta think the Big 12 or whatever they're calling themselves now.
Yeah. Wow.
But you know, so their premier teams jump ship. I don't know why my gut is telling me this. But if Nebraska has half a brain in their head, they jump out of the Big Ten back over to the Big 12 and got a chance to be successful.
Yeah, but that money in the Big Ten is sweet. So I don't see them doing that. What I feel like needs to happen is, and I think we're going to end up there, and I'm not sure if we heard it right here on ESPN Northwest Florida or not. I want to say someone called in and said this. Maybe it was Coach Siegel. I don't know.
Might have been.
But it was.
Wasn't me.
but it was. There's going to come to a point where the college football conference is going to be its own thing. It's going to be, you know, whether it's 64 teams, whether it's 85 teams, whatever it is. Here are your football schools that are going to compete for the FBS National Championship, and then you're going to have everybody else playing in their own sort of division. And then what that's going to do is it's going to allow some of these schools to be able to afford to take care of not only the non-revenue sports, but also the Title IX, because that's one of the biggest things, right?
Huge.
That's going to be that people are missing the boat on is what this conference realignment is doing to Title IX, because some of these schools, while they say they can't afford it, I know a majority of them can. But when you have a school like Troy, which is right down the road from us, right?
Right.
You know, they go to play Alabama. Well, if Alabama has contract constraints where they can't play, and I know Alabama hasn't played an in-state school in, I think, 2 decades, but I digress. But if they're not able to go and get that money that pays for their entire athletics budget for the next year or 2 years, then so you're going to see, you know, high school athletes, you know, boys and girls not being able to go to the school of their choice. I mean, we've already started to see it with college baseball, right? I mean, they went from 13 scholarships for a baseball team. How many players are on a college baseball team? 30? So you're already at 13. Now it's down to like 11.75 scholarships. They cut it by 10%. So if you cut it by 10%, like say they cut it another 15%, now you're at less than 10. There's 9 players on a ball field. Now you're going to tell a kid that, yeah, you're great, but I can't bring you on. You're going to have to pay your own way. Well, they're going to go look elsewhere. And what's going to happen is eventually there's not going to be an elsewhere to go to because these other schools aren't going to be able to afford to have, 9 or even 10 kids on a baseball team. And so that's where I think it gets lost in the shuffle. And, and unfortunately, because it's of a lesser revenue than even the non-revenue sports, the women's sports is really, really going to suffer.
No, you're right. And it's, except for like your Tennessee basketball and UConn basketball and stuff like that. But the normal plain Janes, they are going to struggle, and it's going to be tough. And actually, who actually brought that up on the air with ESPN Radio? That was Leach.
Yes, the 60-14.
It's exactly who said that.
Oh, man. How do you think Zach Garnett's going to do standing in for Leach this year, or I guess the new head coach of the Mississippi State Bulldogs? How do you think he does?
Well, I've heard some good things, heard some bad things, and I'm a little biased because he fired a whole lot of my friends. So, part of me wants to say I hope he doesn't win a game, but I also don't want Leanne calling me and cussing me out right now. So I hope the guy does well just because that is Mike's old program and all. But, he decided I'm going to come in, do it my way, and he changed the offenses. And the problem is you've got guys recruited for that offense. And it goes back to kind of what you guys were just talking about with the minimal scholarships. In college football, they haven't cut the scholarships, but they have. You go look how many guys are actually signing high school football players, not transfers.
Right.
But high school football players. Like I talked to my son, Austin, they brag at ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe, they signed the most high school football players in the country, and they signed 12.
Whoa.
That's not a lot.
You don't hear those numbers too much.
No, that's embarrassing. So I'm like, well, how many Alabama's like that? In Florida and so forth and so on. And it's crazy because I've watched listening to kids talk and talking to high school coaches, and they're just not recruiting high school players anymore. And it's very rare when they look at them because they can go to the transfer portal and get somebody that's been a year or two maybe on like Troy's starting right tackle or maybe even their second string right tackle. Well, now Auburn might have a hole in that spot. They can get him to come be the second string guy for them, and they'll do that because of the NLI money and the prestige. Now you're at Auburn instead of Troy, and so forth and so on all the way across the country. They were telling me a story. They're all conference left tackle, left Louisiana Monroe to go to, and was told you'll be a backup at Ohio State. You will not start, and did it just because of the NLI money because it's Ohio State.
Golly, do you think? So this is our last year with the COVID fifth year eligibility. Do you think that helps the high school recruiting, or is the transfer portal just that big and that big of an obstacle there?
Well, I think with the COVID part being gone, that will help because now guys aren't in their 13th year of college football. They can,
right?
So yeah, the Bennett playing quarterback he's older than the quarterback coach or whatever. I mean, that's going to fix. And they'll start taking a couple more high school guys, but not that much because, so the hardest position to find out of a high school football player is left tackle, that and corner. And the corners because you can't ever find good film of a high school corner because it's hard because of what they film. And then left tackles are just hard because how many actually do pass set and run block together equally? Not very many.
Right.
So you're looking for that left tackle. Well, do I take a high school guy that I know I got to invest 2-3 years to teach him? Or do I go take a guy that's been at Michigan State on the bench or Kent or Troy or South Alabama? I go take him, transfer him in. He's ready to plug and play right now because he's been coached in a college program.
Well, and he's got another year of strength and conditioning. He's got another year of maturation. So he's not only mentally more prepared, but he's also physically more prepared. So, I mean, you can't fault the coaches for doing it. You can hate it all you want, but their job is to win.
Yeah, and the bottom line is if they don't, what will happen to them?
They get fired too, right? So
and quick, because everybody wants it to happen to yesterday now.
Right.
Coach, I got a two-part question. I'll ask them to you one part at a time. What is the toughest position outside of quarterback? Quarterback doesn't count here. Toughest position on the football field at the high school level? Is it the same across all levels?
Not really.
Yeah, so that's why. Yeah, so let's start with high school.
Well, he took quarterback away.
Yeah, took quarterback away because I feel like
the obvious one, right?
Okay, then I'm going to go right back to, you're not going to believe it, left tackle.
Okay.
And then defensively, it's hard just to find a real defensive lineman. Because here's what you can do. You can take a bunch of basketball and baseball players and throw them out at DB, and they can kind of do it.
Right.
But the problem is those daggum corners, if they make a mistake, it's 6 points and everybody sees it.
Yeah.
So it would go left tackle, D-line, corners.
What about
now,
go ahead.
And you go to college, it's left tackle, it's corners, it's D-line. I mean, it's those three.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm talking to these guys, they're starting to talk now about the linebackers being a weird deal because so many teams have gone to the spread. Fast. Linebackers don't know how to tackle anymore. They just know they're playing out in space and playing cover, and they play 7-on-7 year-round. And also now when someone runs downhill at them, they get plowed over. Like, what's his name from Tennessee Titans that came out of Yulee?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. When you got tackled Derrick Henry, he's coming at you. You don't have a chance to think, you better go make that play. Well, so many of these kids have now come up through 7-on-7, they don't know how to tackle. People don't tackle anymore. They don't teach tackling. They're teaching this new age, grab by the ankles, roll around, do that junk. You go tackle Derrick Henry around the ankles, let me know how that goes.
Yeah. Well, and then you're seeing more 4-2, right, that's out there. So you're relying on your linebackers to be able to go more northeast and more east-west as opposed to north-south, because, I mean, back in the day, your Lawrence Taylors and stuff, they were north and south. They were going downhill every play, going after the quarterback. So, I can see that being a tough situation. And, just from what I've garnered, in my amateur status of college football watching is, you're starting to see more and more wide receivers out there at the cornerback spot because
that's right.
Because not only do they have the speed, but they also have the hands to be able to make that play. So, and
that's something that's changed at corner. And a buddy of mine, we both coached against each other. We were talking about it last week. I said, "Have you noticed something about corner?" He goes, "Yeah, he said it's human nature of they're growing. A 5'11", 6-foot corner used to be huge. That's a midget now. They're all 6'2", 6'3". There's 6'4" corners running around. I saw Alabama practice when they were doing their football camp, and I swear one of the corners was 6'5". When he walked by me, I was like, "That's a wide out." And then I watched him went over to corner. I said, "No, that's a corner." And it's partly those wide receivers are going over to corner, and it's amazing. And the other thing is the physical size of wide receivers now. You're looking at these guys that used to be, they look like small DNs or small tight ends, and they're running 4.5s. They're wideouts. They're flying.
That is amazing. The linebacker position, as you were mentioning, could you see that being in the same position as the running back is in the NFL, or are they too crucial of a part on the defense?
No, that's kind of interchangeable. What's been de-emphasized in the NFL, the running backs, nobody wants to pay him. They don't really care about him because they know you can take a guy right out of college, plug and play, put him on the field, and they're being pretty productive in the NFL. Well, conversely, it's because they don't run the ball that much in the NFL. Everybody's throwing it. So what about the linebackers? They're all undersized guys now that can run a little bit. No more do you see the 250-pound, my first step downhill, like you said, attack. Those guys don't exist anymore. It's the undersized linebackers that can run and cover really oversized safeties. I laugh and say Ronnie Lott might have been a linebacker now.
Oh, my goodness. Coach, we've got to take a break. We didn't talk very much high school football there. You got time for another segment?
Yeah, I'm just chilling.
All right, then. We're gonna hold Coach Siegel over. We're gonna ride to a break, and when we get back, it'll be our final segment of the afternoon right here on the Afternoon Underdogs show here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Quick timeout. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
He's famous. When Charlie Pell was there.
Yeah, Marfa Club.
Yeah, Marfa Club. Yeah, that's who it was. The good-looking guy.
You lost me a good-looking guy. And I said, that makes sense. That makes sense. They think they can make it, but and he threw up all over the field.
Weekday morning 7 to 9. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hey folks, Chris Kramer with Bill Kramer GM. And the best place to listen to the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey is inside a brand new vehicle from Bill Kramer GM. And I want you to know we've got 10 times the amount of inventory on the ground as we did this time last year, and darn near all of them are discounted. So shop us online at BillKramerGM.com or visit us the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd. We'll make it easy and take great care of you.
Great design is timeless, and that's why Tracy's Fine Jewelry inside Coin and Bullion Reserves offers a stunning selection of vintage, antique, estate jewelry on sale now at 40% off. Exquisite Victorian rings, Art Deco diamond brooches, Georgian and Art Deco bracelets, earrings, and pendants. These one-of-a-kind pieces add personality to any ensemble, and now at 40% off. Find your timeless treasure at Tracy's Fine Jewelry inside Coin and Bullion Reserves.
It's football season. There is no better place to catch the action than Barefoot. The food, the atmosphere, and your favorite teams are at Barefoot's 3 locations. Barefoot on the Bay, St. Andrews, Barefoot Hideaway, Front Beach, and Barefoot on the Beach on Front Beach. Great food, comfortable atmosphere, amazing views, and plenty of exciting football. Sunday ticket at Barefoot Hideaway. Plus, get your free logoed Barefoot cup with the purchase of a frozen drink during every game, along with drink specials and tasty football fun zone appetizers. Barefoot. Eat, drink, and unwind.
As the Atlanta Braves continue to battle through the National League, they've got all of baseball on notice that they're ready to make another run.
Swung on, driven to deep center. That's in the water. 2-run jack again for Matt Olson.
Tonight, Truist Park comes alive for another huge NL East battle as Sean Murphy and the Braves take on the New York Mets in Atlanta.
Coverage starts at 6. First pitch at 6:20. On your home for the Atlanta Braves on the Gulf Coast. ESPN, Northwest Florida.
It moves fast. The High School Spotlight. Weekdays at 5:40.
Let's do it.
Sponsored by Barbaritos. ESPN Northwest Florida.
The final segment of the afternoon, and you're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes along with Adam Goff. We still have a few spots left for fantasy football. The draft is live at Dave & Buster's this Saturday at 11 a.m. If you'd like to participate, it's totally free. Just text your name and your email to 850-215-6290. We're going to talk a little high school football here with Coach Siegel, but first, we've got a question for Coach Siegel from Gavin. Gavin, go ahead.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Fantastic. Go ahead and ask Coach Siegel your question.
So, Coach, I got a question for you. Have the Bay High Wrestling boys, have they been practicing? Because I'm going to whoop them this year.
Okay. We're talking wrestling.
We're going to pivot real quick here. I didn't know that that's the direction we were going. He just said that he had a question for you. So
I'm sure Bay High's working hard. They got great coaches, great program, and be excited to watch wrestling when wrestling season starts. It's football, dadgummit.
All right. Hey, Gavin, we appreciate the call, my man. Thanks so much. All right, Coach, let's start with Bay High. What should the expectations revolving around Bay High be this year?
You know, they graduated some guys, so they're a little bit younger this year, but I still think they're explosive, and they got a 6'5", 6'6" explosive wide receiver. They've got young quarterbacks, and that's it's always tough when you throw. You said what's the hardest position is quarterback, but I think that DeVos kid is a freshman. He's got a really live arm. He was actually at North Bay Haven last year. And then they've got another kid, I can't remember his name, but he is athletic as all get up and can run. So they make kind of a two-headed monster right there, and it's nice to watch the combination. They've got a really solid defense. They got some speed. I know they're playing Arnold this week. It's going to be a nice, exciting football game. I don't want to make anybody mad making a prediction, but I'm going to go ahead and probably take Bay in that game.
Okay.
Arnold doesn't have a lot of seniors, and Sean does a great job with those
Coach
guys.
Coach came out and chose violence, kind of like Gavin.
Well, Coach Siegel's got to be on it this year. I mean, I love the predictions though, because and whenever you don't want to make one, you don't got to. But hopefully, we have this weekly.
Well,
football
here's one thing I'm looking at. I ain't coaching. I ain't helping anybody, and I might be watching my son play. So it really doesn't matter who I predict anymore. I can go ahead.
There you go. There you go. All right, so let's go to the opponent then. Give us a little preview of the Arnold Marlins football season?
You know, I've heard some really good things about Arnold's defense. Pretty physical, tough. Coach Campbell's a defensive guy by trade. You know, he was D coordinator at Valdosta High in Colquitt County, Georgia, as well as down in South Florida. So, you know, he didn't just forget football all of a sudden. So, I mean, I know they lost some seniors, they had some transfers, but they're going to be hard-nosed and tough. They're going to get after them. And it's going to be an interesting season. I'm watching the young guys develop, and that's one thing is a common theme with a lot of the teams in the area is youth. Bay's got youth with a mixture of some older guys, and they've learned how to win, and I think it's going to be exciting to watch them. Arnold's, it's tough when you're in a program that's in transition back to trying to winning, and I think just young guys are going to be fine. They just got to keep believing they're going to be good.
And what about, we've got a big one tomorrow night, and you can listen to this game right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Coverage starting at 7 o'clock between Rutherford and Mosley. Let's start with Rutherford. What are some of the expectations we've got with the new coach over there with the Rams? What's the preview look like for them?
Well, I think Coach Floyd's doing an amazing job. It's really been pushing discipline and hard-nosed to these kids and Ram pride. Their line's got some nice size to it. You know, not a lot of experience, but nice size. Obviously, they got probably the most experienced running back in the county. Tough kid. Jason Havens, their quarterback, pretty good player. Tough, hard-nosed guy. Speaking of wrestlers, he was a wrestler back in Ohio back in the day. And they've got a couple DBs that can get it. They've got a couple little small, quick wide receivers that can spread the field and get after people. I love what they're doing over there. And that's a young team that's going to every week get better. And I think beating Vernon last week in that kickoff classic or whatever that thing was,
kickoff classic. Yeah.
You know, that I think that really gave them just a little bit of confidence of, hey, you know, we can do this, and that's kind of what it takes, just a little bit of confidence, and they're going to be all right.
And what about their opponent tomorrow night, the Mosley Dolphins?
Whew. Saying Mosley and young doesn't sound right, but they are a little bit young. Their line is massive. You know, and then they can rotate so many big bodies on the defensive line, too. So where do you win high school football games? Well, it's on the line. And I would think just by their sheer size of their offensive line and their defensive line and the numbers, they ought to be all right. And, you know, they got probably, I don't know if he's the most experienced quarterback, but one of the most experienced quarterbacks because they got experienced guys in the county this year. But Freitas does a great job, throws a beautiful ball. He's a big, tall guy. You know, he looks like what a college quarterback looks like. He's got some receivers that have been with him for a couple of years. I know they got two guys rotating at running back that are pretty tough. Mosley's going to be good. You know, you can't go off what you saw in the kickoff classic. You always get better week two. This is basically their week two. Let's see what happens.
Hey, Coach, is there a kid in Bay County that we might see playing some regular downs on Saturdays next season in Bay County?
Like a college guy?
Yeah, like a kid that is playing right now for a high school in Bay County.
Yeah.
That we can see
I don't know if
playing
he's
some
going to
downs.
play. I don't know if he's going to play as a freshman, but the corner Keys over at
Mosley.
Over at Mosley, you know, he got a $2,000 billion scholarship offers. I just don't know because that's a huge transition. Again, left tackle, corner, you know, quarterback. As a freshman, that's tough. I think he'll play. I think he'll play a lot of special teams and get some timing early, maybe some nickel, because he's got some good length. He's got great speed. He's a smart kid.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting, too, because he's going to be playing a little bit more offense this year as well. And Deion Sanders, I can't remember who it was interviewing him, but he was like, it might have been, I'm not even going to waste time thinking about who it was, but he said playing receiver helped him so much as a defensive back, and maybe that can work out that way for Cam Keys, who's going to be playing for Missouri next year. Let's go over to Bozeman. Coach Griffin's still over there?
Yep, Coach Griffin's over at Bozeman. He's got a very experienced quarterback with Peyton Gay. Kid throws a great football. Not a really big guy, but explosive, can run, can throw. And the thing is, he can line up on defense and hit you, too, which you don't really say a lot when you talk about quarterbacks. He's got some kids he's been playing with for 3-4 years that can catch some balls. I know Matthew, too, is a pretty tough tight end they got over there. They've got a nice line. They don't have a lot of depth on their lines, what I'm understanding, but they've got a nice offensive line over there. You know, again, when you get to the small schools, they don't always have a lot of depth. But Bozeman seems to have a little bit more depth than most, and, you know, they're going to have a really good year. Their offense is explosive, and their defense is tough. You know, they had a first outing. Now that this week they play FAMU High School, who, you just never really know what you get out of high school. Some years they're flat loaded, and some years they're really down with their numbers. I haven't seen a lot of FAMU in the last 2 years, so I just don't know.
Now, the original Bear Bryant is no longer with us here on this earth, but there's another one here in Bay County. Tell us a little bit about North Bay Haven and what we can expect from them this year.
Yeah, North Bay Haven's got a lot of offensive weapons that are explosive, which, like I know when I was there, the explosive was hand the football off to Cam or Nate. But, now they can really spread the field, throw it around. Dakota Johnson, probably one of the fastest quarterbacks, if not the fastest quarterback in the area. Can throw the heck out of the football. He's got Willie out there catching footballs. Got Quante Spencer catching footballs. He's got transfer from Mosley catching footballs. They've got 4, 5, 6 different weapons that they hadn't really had in the past North Bay Haven history. So you can't just focus on one guy. They've got a lot of things. They've got Jaden Spurlock playing running back, who's a big back, who also has good speed. So it's interesting watching their offense. Their line is young, which that's a common theme. You got young guys on the line, but they got a little bit of size, and they're going to come along. Defensively, again, young on the line. Manuel Spurlock over there playing D-line. Young linebackers, young DBs, and Coach Manley was going to want to hear this. There is no way there's a better kicker than what I just saw out of North Bay Haven. Me and Coach Tillman were standing next to each other, and both of us stared at each other going, "Did you watch that kid? Holy cow, that guy boomed a 50-something yard field goal versus Port St. Joe. I hadn't seen one of those since college. I was like, holy cow.
I love how you've just been segueing me, and we haven't talked anything about what we're going to talk about, because I was literally looking up PSJ for our listeners over there, 101.9 land. What can we expect from Port St. Joe and the Tiger Sharks this year?
So their running back didn't play this week. They were holding on. He could have played. He was healthy. They were trying to make sure he gets 100% healthy with his shoulder. Port St. Joe's got Liberty this week. Liberty's always going to come after him. That's a little local thing. They're a little thin on numbers over at Port St. Joe, but he does a great job of getting those kids ready. They got a nice little quarterback that can run, can throw. They got some tall receivers. They got a couple linemen that transferred over from Arnold, so I know that they've got some size up front. It's going to be interesting to watch them. It's a thinner than normal Port St. Joe team and younger. A lot of young kids out there, but the future's always good at Port St. Joe because as soon as they're born, they get a football in their little crib.
What's a team that's kind of outside of our, surrounding Bay County, like a Sneads, Cottondale, Vernon? I've heard a lot of hype around Vernon this year.
Yeah.
Who's a team around there that you're excited about this year?
Well, I mean, everybody gets excited for Bluntstown, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, they're flat loaded. But I want to watch Sneads, that running back.
Jason Patterson on his way to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's the kid going to Cincinnati, right?
He's the man now. And I call Louisiana Monroe, and I keep saying it, but my son's a recruiting dude. So I was like, hey, you might want to take a look at this kid. And he's like, yeah, that guy's in Africa. We can't get him. I said, have confidence, man. Just throw one out there. You don't know.
There you go, man.
So, yeah, I like them. I love what they're doing at Vernon. I really just watching them in the weight room, the videos of them in the weight room, you can just see the program turning around. They got a tough one, though, this week with Chase, so I just don't know. And, Weewa's always going to be tough. They got Brookwood, Georgia this week. Freeport's going to play Destin. That's a tough one. And then South Walton playing Baker. South Walton's another team that they're always dangerous. Oh, my goodness. They got so many weapons. And they run that air raid to perfection because they're running it in youth football. They run it in the middle school. They run it in the high school. By the time those guys get to high school, they can run 96, 97 routes all day long.
Coach, next year when if Dave & Buster's is holding that high school football media days again, we got to figure out a way for you to come out there with us. We would hit them with some great questions. It would be a lot of fun.
Sure.
You don't have to answer this one if you don't want to, but who ends up being the county champion here in 2023? Putting you on the spot, and you can plead the fifth, Coach.
I got it down to two, but it's the obvious two. It's Mosley and Bay, and I really can't figure out which one. But who's third is the question. That
all right.
I'm looking at like two teams for sure, but possibly of a third that are right. Anybody can be third. These guys are coming back. When I first came down here, I was like, everyone talking about we've got to get Bay County football back. It's coming back. I mean, Bozeman's been in the playoffs every single year. North Bay Haven's got a good young coach with explosive. Rutherford's got a heck of a football coach, got a great attitude, got the guys going. Campbell's going to get that thing fixed at Arnold. Watch. Bay is already on the up. I mean, you saw what Jeremy did last year. And then obviously, Mosley is Mosley. They're always going to be at the top, and they are at the top. And he does a great job coaching, got a great staff. So, I mean, there's really not a give me in Bay County anymore.
Wow. Great stuff. Coach, thanks so much for giving us some of your time. It's fun as always, and can't wait to have a weekly segment with you. And it'll probably end up being 2 segments if we can make it happen, talking some high school football and more than likely every brand of football that we can talk about.
We can talk about the XFL and the UFL.
That's what I said earlier when we were opening the show. I was like, this man knows so much about high school football, collegiate football, Canadian football, the NFL, and I'm sure he has tons of knowledge on the USFL.
And there's a new pro league coming out called the International Football League. Coach Mummy's coaching one of the teams in Guadalajara.
How Mummy is?
Nice. Coach, I've only got a minute left, but real quick, which league had the better year last year, the USFL or the XFL?
Well, seeing that the Arlington Renegades won at the XFL.
There you go. Oh, doesn't your daughter works for them? Doesn't
she? Did they fired all the marketing people, so she's no longer with us.
Ah, goodness gracious. Well, it was a great run, and thank you so much for being with us. And we look forward to catching up with you next week. And I'll probably see you at the game tomorrow night.
You got it. I'll be there. I'm going to try to get a hot dog and a popcorn.
There we go. That is Coach Siegel, ladies and gentlemen. Such a great job. Such a fun guy to talk sports with. Like, it doesn't even feel like we're sitting here.
Yeah, I'd love to sit on a couch with him and just watch football all day with him.
It would be so easy, man. I got the opportunity to call the Mosley Bay game with him last year, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm sitting next to Tony Romo right now. Like, because when the mics are off, it's even higher. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just great stuff. Again, thanks to Coach Siegel and Sam Peebles and to Adam Goff. I'm David Hayes. We are the Afternoon Underdogs. Coming up next, it is none other than your Atlanta Braves. Hopefully we can take game 3 to win that series. Y'all have a great afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow night. Race to Daytona tomorrow morning on the Coach James Hale Show at 8:45.
About your past.
ESPN, Northwest Florida.
The tradition continues.
That ball is going to be out of here.
The Atlanta Braves play here.
Bombs away.
The Atlanta Braves are back and making a statement.
At first slide, 2 RBI triple.
Listen to Atlanta Braves baseball in a rich audio experience live on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Here comes the thunder.
Sponsored by Best Way Portable Buildings, Dave and Buster's.